When I was diagnosed with depression, my mother told everyone I was faking for attention. "You don't look sick," she said, tearing up my prescriptions. I nodded slowly and replied, "But you're about to." The morning her reputation collapsed online, she called me crying because my name's Rachel, and I grew up in a town called Mooresville, North Carolina. It's not tiny, but it's small enough that everybody knows your name, what you're up to, and what kind of car you drive. My mom, Brenda, is one of those women everyone in town thinks is perfect. You know the type. She runs the charity bake sales, helps organize the school fundraisers, posts on Facebook about gratitude and blessings, all while making sure she's wearing just the right outfit with her hair curled and nails done. Everyone thinks she's an angel. She's not. I learned that the hard way when I was 25. For a long time I'd been feeling off. Couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. My chest always felt tight, like there was a weight sitting on it, and sometimes I'd start crying for no reason at all. It felt like I was trying to swim up through mud, and every day I'd sink a little deeper. After a while, it got so bad I couldn't hide it anymore. I'd skip meals, miss work, forget to shower. I knew I needed help, but it took everything I had just to get out of bed most days. It all came crashing down one night when I was driving home from my shift at the grocery store. I just pulled into a random parking lot and sat there, gripping the steering wheel, sobbing so hard I could barely breathe. I felt like I was going to break apart. That's when I knew I couldn't keep pretending I was fine. I had to see a doctor. A week later, the doctor told me I had clinical depression. She explained everything so clearly, how it affects your brain, how it's not my fault, how medication and therapy could help. For the first time in years, I felt like maybe I wasn't crazy. Maybe I wasn't just lazy or weak. I left the doctor's office feeling lighter, I guess. That didn't last long. That evening, I sat down at the kitchen table with Brenda. I told her everything, how I'd been diagnosed, how I needed medication, how I was going to start therapy. She stared at me like I'd just told her I was a criminal. Then she laughed. Laughed. "Oh, Rachel," she said, shaking her head, "you don't look sick. Depression? That's just a fancy word for lazy. You don't need pills. You need to get your act together." I sat there, stunned. My hands were shaking. "I'm not making this up," I whispered. She snorted and stood up. "I'm not letting you poison yourself with those pills," she said, grabbing the little white pharmacy bag I'd left on the table. She tore it open, pulled out my prescriptions, and ripped them into pieces. The paper crumbled in her hands like none of it mattered. I just sat there, watching. And that's when it hit me, this woman wasn't going to help me. She never had. She never would. I looked her dead in the eye and said, slow and quiet, "But you're about to look sick." She didn't ask what I meant. Just walked away, muttering something about tough love and spoiled kids. That night, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling, listening to her downstairs, laughing on the phone with one of her church friends. I felt something twist in my chest, but it wasn't sadness this time. It was cold. I started remembering all the times she'd humiliated me. Like the time in 10th grade when I cried after getting dumped, and she told everyone I was just being dramatic because I wanted attention. Or the time in college when I failed a class because I couldn't concentrate, and she told my aunt it was because I was lazy, like always. She'd been doing this my whole life, chipping away at me, turning people against me. I'd had enough. So I started listening. Recording. Every time she said something cruel, I hit record on my phone. "You're useless. People like you just want a free pass in life. If you're depressed, it's because you're selfish. Therapy is for weak people." I got it all. Every single word. I also started going through her stuff. She was always bragging about the women's club and the charity events she organized. Well, I knew for a fact that money wasn't going where she said it was. I'd seen the new designer purse in her closet, the spa gift certificates, the receipts for expensive dinners. It didn't take much digging to match dates and numbers. I gathered it all: emails, screenshots, voice recordings. Then I started posting. At first, I used anonymous accounts. I posted little clips in local Facebook groups, sent emails to the women's club board members, left screenshots in community threads. Just enough to get people talking. And oh, they talked. Soon, whispers turned into full-blown gossip. The PTA moms started side-eyeing her at the grocery store. Her best friend Janice stopped returning her calls. The women's club started asking questions, big questions about missing funds, about where donation money had gone. Then I sent them the receipts. All of it. The morning it all exploded, she called me, sobbing. "Rachel, please, I don't know what's happening. People are turning on me. They're saying I stole money, they're sharing videos of me saying awful things. I don't know who would do this to me." Her voice was shaking. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. I sat there, holding my phone, staring out the window. I could hear the panic in her voice, the desperation. And for once in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel bad. I just let her talk. When she finally stopped to breathe, I said, real quiet, "You don't look sick, Mom. So you must be fine." That's when she went silent. Dead. Silent. And that's when I knew, she realized exactly what I'd done. She didn't say another word after I told her, "You don't look sick, Mom. So you must be fine." The line stayed open for a few seconds, her breathing ragged, soft gasps like she couldn't catch her breath. Then she hung up. I sat there in my apartment, my phone buzzing every few minutes with notifications. The Facebook posts were blowing up. People from church, the PTA, the women's club, all sharing the recordings, the receipts, the screenshots. I watched as her little world started falling apart. But here's the thing, I didn't stop there. Because the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. She had been lying for years, playing this perfect image in front of the town, acting like she was better than everyone. And I realized, this wasn't just about me. It was about all the people she had hurt along the way. There was Mrs. Franklin, the woman down the street who had lost her husband last year. Brenda had organized a fundraiser for her, except only half the money ever made it to Mrs. Franklin's account. I checked. The rest? Well, let's just say those new kitchen countertops weren't cheap. Then there was a girl named Alyssa, who went to the same church. She'd told me once how my mom made her feel less than because she didn't dress fancy enough for Sunday service. How she overheard Brenda saying she looked like a stray dog that wandered in. Alyssa had stopped coming to church after that. And don't even get me started on the way she talked about people behind their backs. So I started collecting their stories too. I messaged Alyssa, told her what was happening. She sent me a voice note, shaking, saying, "I thought I was the only one." I reached out to Mrs. Franklin, told her about the fundraiser money. She went quiet for a long time, then said, "I knew something wasn't right. I just didn't know how to prove it." I told her I had the proof. And together, we started to build a bigger case. But things at home, they got ugly. My mom started texting me nonstop. At first, it was sobbing messages, "Please, Rachel, please, you're ruining my life." I didn't mean it, I was just stressed, you know how I get. "Let's talk, we can fix this. Please." When I didn't reply, it turned into anger. "You ungrateful brat. After everything I've done for you. You'll regret this. You're not well, Rachel. You need help." And then, threats. I got a text at 1 a.m., "If you don't stop, I'll tell everyone about what you did in high school. How you cheated on that test. How you lied about your college applications. You want everyone to know what kind of person you are?" I stared at that message, my heart pounding. And that's when I realized, she didn't think I was capable of fighting back. She never had. But I wasn't done. I sent the full folder of evidence, every recording, every receipt, every story, to the local paper. And they ran it. Front page of the Saturday edition, local woman faces fraud allegations, women's club funds misused, sources say her name was all over it. So were the details. And the editor? He didn't just print my documents, he started digging too. Turns out, there were a lot of people in town who had a bone to pick with Brenda. The fallout was brutal. The women's club voted her out. They said they might press charges. The church asked her to step down from the charity board. Neighbors stopped waving when she drove by. And Brenda? She tried to fight back. She went on Facebook Live one night, crying into the camera, saying how devastated she was, how betrayed she felt, how people were spreading lies to tear down a good woman. I watched her face twist with fake tears, and all I could think was, you taught me this. Because here's the truth. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. And when they refuse to learn, you show them who you are. After that Facebook Live meltdown, things kept getting worse for Brenda. The paper didn't just print the first story, they kept digging. They found more. Turns out, she wasn't just skimming off charity events. She'd been writing off fake expenses on her taxes for years. The accountant she used was sloppy, didn't check anything. The paper's follow-up headline hit the town like a hammer. Local woman under IRS investigation, alleged tax fraud uncovered. Brenda tried to act like it wasn't a big deal, but the pressure built fast. The church cut ties. The women's club filed a formal complaint. Donations dried up. Sponsors pulled out. The small-town gossip turned brutal. I'd hear whispers when I walked into the grocery store, "That's Rachel's mom, the one who stole all that money. She always acted so high and mighty, now look at her." And Brenda? She couldn't handle it. She stopped leaving the house. Stopped going to church. The calls stopped. The texts stopped. For weeks, I didn't hear a word. Then one day, I got a message from my aunt, "Have you talked to your mom? She's not answering anyone." I drove over, half expecting to find her still playing the victim. But when I walked in, I froze. The living room was a mess, papers everywhere, empty wine bottles on the floor, her laptop open to an email from the IRS demanding an in-person audit. Brenda was sitting at the table, her head in her hands, sobbing so hard her whole body shook. I didn't feel pity. Not at first. But as I stood there, I started to see her for what she really was, not some powerful, untouchable figure, but a scared, broken woman who had built her entire life on lies. And me? I realized I wasn't blameless either. Because while I'd taken her down, I hadn't thought much about what that would do to me. I lost friends too. Some people thought I went too far, said I should have just let it go. My relationship with my aunt and cousins got strained. The town didn't see me as a victim, they saw me as the girl who nuked her own mother's life. And I couldn't deny it, I had gone too far in some ways. I'd done it to hurt her. Not just to stop the lies, but to make her feel what she'd made me feel all those years. And I did. Brenda lost everything. Her social standing, her money, her reputation, gone. The IRS came down hard, slapped her with fines and back taxes. The women's club threatened legal action over the stolen funds. But the worst part? Her name became a joke. People whispered when they saw her at the store, if she dared to show up. Her so-called friends ghosted her. Even at church, where forgiveness is supposed to matter most, they didn't want her around. And when she called me one last time, voice hoarse and broken, she said, "Rachel, I don't have anyone left. I'm sorry. Please. I'm so sorry." I paused, holding the phone, hearing the pain in her voice. Then I told her the truth. "You always told me I wasn't really sick, Mom. You never believed me. And you never helped me. You were supposed to protect me. But you destroyed me. So I'm sorry too, but I'm not coming to help you." And I hung up. That was the last time we spoke. I thought I'd feel satisfied, but instead, it felt hollow. Because here's the thing about revenge. It does give you a sense of power, for a while. It makes you feel like you're finally in control. But it also leaves a mess behind. I still go to therapy every week. I'm still working on my own healing. And I've had to accept that I'll never have a normal relationship with my mom again, because even though I tore her down, it didn't fix what she broke in me. But I'm not sorry for what I did. She needed to see what it felt like when the world turned against her. She needed to learn the hard way that you can't treat people like garbage and expect them to stay quiet forever. And if I could go back, I'd still hit record. Because some lessons? They have to come the hard way. The last time my mom called me, she sounded like a shell of the person she used to be. The woman who used to strut through the church lobby like she owned the place, who told anyone who'd listen that I was too sensitive or too emotional, now sounded like she could barely breathe. "Rachel, please," she whispered. "I don't know how to fix this. I don't even have the money to pay the fines. They're threatening to take the house." I cut her off. "Mom, stop." She went quiet. "I'm done. I can't help you. You burned every bridge, not just with me, but with everyone. And you know what? I didn't even have to lie. You did this to yourself." She started crying. But I didn't care anymore. Because by then, the full weight of everything had come down on her. The IRS wasn't just threatening her, they seized her accounts. The bank froze her assets. Her so-called friends at the women's club? They publicly announced they'd be cooperating with authorities. The pastor at her church announced she was no longer welcome to volunteer or represent the congregation. And then the biggest blow hit. I hadn't known this part was coming, but Brenda's husband, my stepdad, Mark, he found out about everything too. I guess someone had sent him the articles and the recordings. Maybe it was one of the women from church. Maybe it was someone else in town. Either way, Mark packed a bag and left. He didn't even wait for her to get home from the grocery store that day. Just left a note on the counter, "I can't believe you did this. Don't contact me." She tried calling him. Left him voicemail sobbing, begging. He never answered. She was alone. Her perfect little life? Gone. And here's the part one didn't expect. I started to get messages from other people in town, people who had been hurt by her too. A single mom who said Brenda had embarrassed her at a school fundraiser, calling her a charity case in front of others. A teenager who said Brenda mocked his weight at church youth group. Even the owner of the diner in town told me Brenda had tried to get her fired from the women's club catering contract because she didn't like her attitude. All these people, quietly, one by one, started thanking me. It was like they'd all been waiting for someone to stand up to her, and once I did, they could finally breathe. But not everyone was on my side. Some people in town thought I was cruel. That I went too far. That I should have just let it go. My own aunt stopped talking to me. She said, "Family is family, Rachel. You don't air your dirty laundry in public." I told her, maybe if someone had aired it sooner, none of this would have happened. But the damage was done. And as for me, I thought I'd feel better. I thought taking her down would fix the ache inside me, the years of being told I was never enough, the years of her making me feel small. It didn't. I still had the depression. Still had the bad days. Still had to fight the weight in my chest, the nights where my hands shook for no reason. And maybe the hardest thing? Realizing that taking my mom down didn't make me whole. It just ended the fight. I stood at the edge of the mess, watching her fall apart, and I didn't feel like a winner. I felt like someone who had burned a house down and was left standing in the ashes, holding the match. She got what she deserved. Every last bit. But I also learned that revenge isn't clean. It's messy. It stains you too. And while she was left alone, broke, and humiliated, I was left with the truth. I'd won the war, but I'd also lost something along the way. I'm still picking up those pieces. And I probably always will.